With mortgage rates being 8%, what is the true cost to the buyer and why it's massively huge? Plus, the huge opportunity that's available to you in this market. Billions, we have problems.
Billions? Okay, what? Before we get into billions, let's get into $200, okay? Because I did lose a bet. If you guys are just chiming in now, we have a friendly bet for if the Fed was going to raise rates or not raise rates, and they did not raise rates, and a lot of people are saying they might not raise at all. So there's the $200
Boom.
before we get into the billions, and subscribe for more bets on what the Federal Reserve is going to be doing and everything real estate, especially Seattle based.
So you're saying I'm going to win more money. Is that what we're...
Well, we'll see. Like I was like, I've already thought, okay, what's the next bet I can make in relation to the Fed? Because I really believe one of these I could win. Because you are much more optimistic, I would say, which is based off of data and experience. But I have this secret itch right now in my brain that Powell, is a little more hawkish and actually wants to snuff out inflation. Yes. So if you're just chiming in, we're talking about interest rates, how they're affected by the Federal Reserve, which we're going to get into today, but why it's important is because mortgage rates are based off of that, and we're going to get into it. But any thoughts before we get into this first topic?
The bet was the Fed going to raise in
November?
In November. And we also did the same bet in September. So in September, we lost, or Benji lost, excuse me. Then it was double or nothing. So he's 2 for 0 right now. Not that we're keeping score, but I am with my hundos right here. And here's the real interesting thing, because I don't want to spend a ton of time on the Fed. I think we've beat that one. But the Fed right now, Jerome yesterday, he was a little bit dovish, but firm. And so what happened today was interest rates cooled down as that 10-year treasury cooled down. And they're going to come out and they're going to talk tough for the next few meetings. But I believe we've hit peak interest rates. And then over the next 6 months, 9 months, somewhere in there, interest rates are going to start to cool down. Now, it doesn't mean the Fed's going to drop. There's still that big margin that's in there that we've talked about before, the 300 basis points. That's going to naturally cool down as the banks don't need that level of margin over the next 6 months. That's why bonds started cooling today, because people were like, we got some good job data. The Fed didn't raise. So part of the yield needed to come out of the bonds. And as the yield came out of the bonds, mortgage rates floated down too. About 60 basis points. So, I mean, that's over half a percentage point left us today. Crazy.
The summary, the quick version for real estate and especially Seattle would be you can potentially look forward to rates not going up too high, mortgage rates, potentially over the course of the next 1 to 2 years, which is still a long time, maybe come down or at least just kind of stay put, and then we'll just see how the rest of the dominoes fall. Yeah. But it means that, I think, and you tell me if this is correct or not, house prices may actually start going up again the next 1 to 2 years if interest rates go down. If they don't go down, then house prices may go down a little bit, but we'll just see. And that's, again, just a waiting game.
Lance Lambert put this out on Resi Club, and these are national home values, just to kind of, so the whole audience understands that from the bottom of the crash to today, house prices are up 127%.
From the crash?
Yes.
What crash?
2008, 9, and 10.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. From the 2000s housing bubble peak, so most of the U.S. peaked between 2005 to 2007, depending where you're at, up 67%. March of 2020, we're up 42%. 2% year over year, and 0.5% from the peak. So if nationally, and we know the Seattle metro runs hotter than everywhere else, but nationally with interest rates in the 7, if it was still up and interest rates come down even a skosh, yes, I would expect to see appreciation. So our bet, and I'm happy to put some money on it if necessary, is that we get appreciation both nationally and locally. I would say our national appreciation number is actually probably pretty mild, 2%, maybe 3%. And locally, I mean, I'll bet it's going to be like 5 to 7, above average again.
What's that article you were referring to? What's it called?
Lance Lambert, he was an editor for Fortune, and he started a website called Resi Club, and he puts out some of this awesome home price data, and that's where I found that.
But let's talk about this first topic. $1.8 billion awarded to home sellers after the jury, who deliberated for just 3 hours, finds conspiracy among realtors and several brokerages. What is this, and how does it affect buyers, sellers, investors?
On a previous episode, we talked about, holy cow, maybe the 6% commission is dead. This lawsuit is an antitrust lawsuit where they were saying the seller didn't have to pay the buyer's commission. 2 of the major real estate firms settled, 2 went to battle, and NAR went to battle, and they lost. And they were awarded $1.8 billion with a B dollars as the verdict.
Who? Home sellers?
These home sellers in this case.
In the class action
In this
lawsuit?
class action lawsuit. Wow. Yeah, it's huge.
How many people are in that, you think?
The attorneys are going to be the real winners. Let's just be blunt with this. And I actually don't know, but this is the crazier part. Because those damages are based on a type of a verdict, it actually means they could be awarded triple damages, which in this case would be $5.3 billion. So basically, the jury went and deliberated. They said, yep, there's a conspiracy, but it was short. I was asked by a friend about this, Sean Cannell, one of our friends. We spoke right before this. He goes, hey, what do you think about this? And I said, hey, couple things. Whenever a market appreciates rapidly and then the economy changes, people look for fingers to blame and say, it's not my fault, it's someone else's. Okay, so that's part of this. 2, like I said in the 6% is dead episode, I think we are still going to have a decoupling of commissions, and I think that's fine. I think there's a lot of fear associated with this in my industry. So if you go on a real estate Facebook group right now, there's posts about this and they've got 500 comments, 700 comments, lots of fear. Don't be fearful. Change is inevitable. Change is a certain, right? What's going to happen is the decoupling of commissions. There may not be a buy-side commission. Who's really winning here? Attorneys. Let's go to a conspiracy theory for a second and really follow the money. So yeah, I get it. In this lawsuit, attorneys are winning. But who really wins if the average consumer now has to pay for their own representation instead of getting it from the seller? It's now cost them more. So let's just say they were going to get an FHA loan. It was 3.5%. And now they have to pay their own commission too. So they have to have the 3.5%. They got to have the 3% to pay the agent, or maybe 1% or 2%, depending on what it is. Plus, they have to have about 2 to 2.5% in closing costs. Does that help home buyers or does that hurt home buyers?
It hurts them.
It massively hurts home buyers, especially first-time home buyers, especially people with lower income, lower credit, and possibly even hurts minorities worse. So then what does it do? Well, once again, let's follow this conspiracy. Well, then it forces more of them to be renters. So who benefits the most of more of our nation being renters? Well, to be honest, stupid hedge funds. Hedge funds that control, we're talking the Invitation Homes, the American Home Partners, those people, those big funds that control tens of thousands of properties. And of course, the small mom and pop landlords too. I own properties. I'm for being a landlord. I'm not for things that have the potential to possibly destroy parts of the middle class and make it harder for them to rent. Now, once again, I said I'm already okay with the decoupling of commissions. I think what's going to happen is your professionalism will rise inside of the real estate industry. I think buyer's agents will have to clearly articulate the value that they're delivering. And some agents will make more, and some will make less, and there'll just be less agents, and that's okay. And one of the other things to think about here is I don't want this to create fear for buyers, and I don't want this to create fear for real estate agents and real estate brokers. Every time we have a disruption of an industry, it always creates opportunity. So as something gets massively disrupted and pushed to one side, it creates a whole new opportunity over here. Example that all of us know and love. Taxis existed, cell phones existed, GPS existed, apps existed. Uber comes in and starts disrupting the taxi industry. Is Uber providing a better service than probably most taxi services? Yes. Yes, it's convenient. Is it sometimes, though, more expensive? Definitely. Okay. So that is what I think is going to happen, but that created massive opportunity for Uber. So if that's what's happening in real estate and commissions, get decoupled and rates move up and down, and rates have always been negotiable. I'm doing a deal right now and it's a flat rate on the listing side. And it adds up to like maybe 1.2. And it's a big deal. It's a big multifamily deal. And I think the buy side on that one is a flat rate. I think it adds up to like 1.35%. So this idea that a conspiracy has happened and all commissions are 6% is, in my opinion, a little bit ludicrous, just because I don't see commissions always being 6%. I find it sad because I think the people who are really going to win here are attorneys and property owners, and specifically big hedge funds, because this is just going to make it harder for people to buy, which forces more people into rents.
Real quick. So buyers pay their agents if they want an agent in this process, because the seller's not.
The seller currently pays buyer's agent commissions.
But not in this case if this all plays out.
That's the uncertain part.
Because the way I look at it is if the buyers have to pay their agents through their loans potentially or out of pocket, and the sellers only have to pay their own agents don't lose, but you're saying there's a potential for maybe lower commissions?
There's a potential for maybe lower commissions, but there's also a potential for that buyer not being able to afford representation. Let me give you an example.
Doesn't that defy the whole point of having an agent on both sides?
Here's what I'm telling people. Don't be fearful. Change is inevitable. And that this itself will create some opportunity. But when people don't have representation, so here's an example. We bought a property off market. It's in Everett. It's pretty beat up. We got it for $417,000. On market, that one could have sold for probably $470,000. Why? There's no representation in the middle. I'm very skilled, so I get rewarded for my skill. The problem is a first-time home buyer, or even a second-time home buyer, possibly even a third-time home buyer, is not going to have that level of skill. So if they have to go up against someone like me, they're going to lose. Which means also someone with high skill who's been in the industry a long time may get paid massively more than 3%. So I don't know. Commissions, they may go up, they may go down, but there's a lot of fear. Like the whole real estate industry is dead. Come on, people. Keep loving your clients. Keep serving your clients. Keep working with your brokerage. Keep working with your awesome teammates and business partners. It's business as usual. This is going to get appealed. It's going to sit in court for a long period of time. And it is the start of some change, and that's okay.
Yeah, the benefit for buyers and sellers, I believe, is it just putting a little bit more leverage and control in their court, because buyers and sellers should negotiate. I know this is a little controversial for an agent, but you actually can do that. You don't have to pay the 3%. Also, it forces agents, like you said, to be better. That's not a bad thing at all. In fact, it kind of gets rid of all the wannabes or the hobbyists or the kind of like side job people. In a way, I think overall it does make it better, but the question is, are there other parties that would benefit even more so from it? But that's kind of that's how capitalism works anyways.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Next topic. Skills are creating the deals for buyers, sellers, investors, and agents in this market. Tell me more about your thoughts here. So, what are you trying to say for this statement?
This actually goes back to almost what we were just saying about that deal in Everett, is buyers who are doing homework. So I talked to a buyer yesterday, and she's like, I'm driving out to Woodby Island. I'm going to drive out. I'm going to go look at these properties. I'm going to go listen for road noise. I'm going to go drive by the other potential comps for this property so I know the best offer to make, and you can help me make that offer. I said, wow, you're doing a lot of homework. And she said, I want to be prepared to negotiate. I mean, I'm like, I heart you, woman. I love this. So a buyer should be working on their skills in this market. That's what I'm saying. The seller needs to be working on their skills, understanding their competition, what listings they're against. The buyer's agent. Okay, another story. So this week is just a lot of stories. We get feedback on a listing, and it says, we like the property. So we pick up the phone, call this particular buyer's agent and said, hey, you like the property, but we didn't get an offer. So like, what's up? This is for the agents who got in the last 5 years. I need you to listen right now. He says, well, I didn't know what to do next. And so they said they liked it, but interest rates went up. So we just didn't do anything. So I said, okay, are they pre-approved? Yes, they are. I said, interest rates going up. Did it scare them? He goes, yes, it scared them. I said, so they have a little fear and then it's hurting their pocketbook. He goes, absolutely, that's where we're at. I said, what if we could give them the interest rate they would have just had? He goes, well, maybe that'll alleviate their fear. I said, how about this? Why don't you pick up the phone and call your lender right now and talk to them about a 3-2-1 buy down or a 2-1 buy down. You have the conversation first. Make sure you and the lender are comfortable. Then give me a call back, because possibly this seller would buy down your interest rate. Hey, P.S., you're talking to the seller. It's me. And he laughs. He didn't know that. I was like, yeah, I'm the owner. And I want to put a deal together because I got a better opportunity over here, but you didn't ask. I said, so I'm not putting pressure on you, but call your lender. After you guys have a conversation, get on a three-way, send me an email with the breakdown, and maybe we can put a deal together. So this, on the buyer's agent side, is about going above and beyond. On the listing agent side, it's about going above and beyond. It's about rapid, fast communication and going, how do I build a bridge with this buyer and seller to put a deal together? That's the skills. Now let's flip it over. Let's give it to our investors. It's also the time for the investors to ask amazing questions. So I got asked an amazing question about a multifamily property. He said, do you think the price is high, low, and where do you think it's going to finally trade at, aka sell or go mutual? I just, bluffed him just because I wanted to see how good he was. I was like, I don't know. What do you think? Don't give him anything. Well, and I can tell he's looking down because his voice is changing. Well, I think that, it's probably going to trade more around the 3 million mark. What do you think? Oh, good job, buddy. You took a shot across my bow. It's on the market for 3.6. So this is a shot. And I said, you know what? Any offer you put in front of me, I will put in front of the seller. And my seller's not going to take that offer. But if your client's willing to negotiate, send me an offer and let's play ball. And he goes, okay, I'll go work on getting you an offer. So I never told him the seller's position. And I said, just give me an offer. But that investor, maybe they were coaching their agent about, hey, this is what I'm looking for, because they came in and asked for basically 20% off the listing price. That's a big ask. I mean, we're talking $600,000 in this case. But they were willing to ask. So we've said it. I'm going to bring it up again. It's deal season. It's time to ask. This seller may not say yes, but the next one might say yes. And if you ask enough of them, you're going to find the motivated one who's going to give you your price or your terms or a combination of price and terms. That's why this is the skills-based market. We have to really brush up and increase the velocity of our communication, increase the gusto, the guts, the hardcoreness by which I'm going to ask for it. And we've got to try to figure out the other person's position and how we can build a bridge to get there. That's what I mean. Brush up your skills. It's game time. Let's go.
What it makes you think is this agent in the first story because they're fearful. And that's what a lot of agents are, which I think a lot of people in the industry are fearful.
And I think it's not just agents, it's consumers. It's all of them.
I understand. So they're idle. So they're just not doing anything, and they're isolating themselves, which is a huge problem, especially for the amateur or the newbie or someone that doesn't have the experience, versus having a little more faith, pushing for the deal and being proactive. You as an experienced agent, we're just helping them be a little more proactive by pushing. And I think that's always the solution whenever there's problems. And the problem right now is people have not experienced this in a very long time. Even you and I, who have been in the industry since the mid 2000s, 2004, right? We've never seen rates get up this high, maybe a little bit, but not even in this circumstance. But that's always the person that's going to win. Sorry, I just finally got this fly. Okay, now I have to clean that later. The reason this is deal season is because of people not willing to make a deal will quit and will just be gone from this industry. The ones that are pushing to make deals, right, are more proactive, are creative, they're going to be the successful investors, buyers, to a certain degree, even sellers down the road. And that's what agents need. Because it's starting to get dark, literally, here in Washington. It's getting darker earlier, but it's starting to become winter season, right? Like you said, early. It's fall, but it's already feeling cold.
Feels like winter.
It's feeling slow, and this is a time when you want to plant those seeds for springtime. Not springtime of 2024, but 2025, 2026. Get ready for it too, because there's going to be a lot of people that just stay put and do nothing. You want to do the opposite, which is you want to double down and move forward.
Well, I mean, that literally brings us right into our next one. So I believe right now there's massive opportunity because winter is here. And so what does that mean for people? It means you need to pay down your debt. You need to decrease your spending. You need to increase your cash. And if you don't have cash, you need to go talk to Dear Aunt Tilly about getting cash. So if you're new, Dear Aunt Tilly is anyone in your network who has money. It could be your actual aunt. It could be your neighbor. It could be anyone.
We love Aunt Tilly.
Aunt Tilly just has money. That's it. And you need to go ask her for that, because this is that opportunity time. With interest rates being over 8%, the market naturally slowed down. So we spoke with a buyer, and this buyer says, my wife is working on getting a new job and interest rates went up, so we're going to pause through the winter until next year. So as the weather gets bad, and yes, we live in Seattle, it rains all the time. Subscribe if you want to see more rain. Then what happens is naturally people go, oh, I just want to sit inside. I want to drink a cup of hot cocoa and eat some good food. So I pick up the phone, I call this particular buyer, and I said, hey, 1, I want to respect your choices and your decisions. 2, I understand it creates uncertainty when you're possibly looking for a job. So that creates uncertainty and fear. 3, we got the media hitting us with that FUD, that fear, uncertainty, and doubt. 4, interest rates went up, so that payment's a little scarier. So I said, and let's just call him Bob. So I said, now, Bob, if that's happening to you, do you think that's also happening to other people? And Bob goes, oh my goodness. And I said, can I explain what the whole football field looks like right now? And he goes, yeah, tell me what you see. I said, if you're saying that, do you think every other buyer is? Yes. So is demand going up or down? Holy cow. I said, demand's going down, which means we can make better, crazier offers and get better terms. We just talked about how someone just asked for 20% off or $600,000 off of the list price. That person would not have asked for that in the spring of this year. But because it's winter, because interest rates are a little above 8%, because the economy isn't looking good, because there's wars going on, all these bad things are happening. None of this is good, but that fear is what creates that opportunity. So what should you be doing? You should be paying down your debt, cashing up, and just getting ready, because if a good deal pops up, you're ready to go. And I said, hey, Bob, there's no pressure. I just want you to keep your eyes open and realize we may throw a ridiculous offer at someone if it's the right property. If it's not, no worries, no pressure.
because there's a lot of people doing that right now. It goes back to what I said. They're just sitting idle. They're like, hey, I don't want to do anything. I can relate to that too. It's like, hey, if I'm really busy or maybe I don't know this market, fearful hat comes on and you're just like, I'm going to hide out for a little bit.
I'd rather do nothing than do the wrong thing. When that fear hat comes out, people pull in like a turtle and they hide just inside of their shell because they'd rather do nothing than the wrong thing. While everyone's doing nothing, it's time to go do the right thing and win.
That's where the experienced investor comes in, or in your case, an experienced agent that knows what they're doing and knows what to do in this thing. So actually, the topic I want to get into is right here. And this kind of goes back to the Fed. Can we get into this?
This is insane.
All right. So this is a tweet I saw. I love Twitter. I know it's called X, but I still call it Twitter. It was a tweet by somebody talking about what 8.5% interest rate on your mortgage results into in terms of how much you pay over time. So let's talk about the hidden costs of interest rates in a mortgage when interest rates are at 8%.
This is insane. This blew my mind. So the average home in the United States is about $430,000. So when rates were 2.5%, over the life of that 30-year loan, you would have paid the price of the home, the $430,000, plus $181,000 in interest. And now with interest rates at 8.5%, that 30-year mortgage, not only has the payment shot up, we've talked about that many times, you would pay an additional $760,000 over the life of the loan in just interest, which is more than double. The difference from 2 years ago is $579,000 more because of interest. This is the hidden cost that people don't think about. Over the life of the loan, you're paying for this if at 8.5%, you're paying more than double and almost triple because the price of the home, the $430,000 plus $760,000. That's insane.
I think that I would actually disagree. I think intuitively, if you've ever got an amortization schedule as a buyer, you actually do know that the higher the interest rate, you're going to pay more in interest costs, and over time it can get. This is just putting it.
I think you're smarter than the average consumer.
Okay, but I mean, I think everybody kind of looks at it and goes like, "Oh, wow, that's a lot of interest."
Yes.
I think maybe not everybody, but at least a third, maybe half, kind of seems like, "Oh, well, at least my payment is this." Point of this though is it's actually showing you the difference. So we're talking $760,000 in interest payments, right?
Yes.
Versus $181,000 in interest payments. The person that never even went to school at least knows there's a difference between 180 and 760.
And it's huge.
And it's huge. It's so massive. And this is why things are going to slow down dramatically. Going back to what we say, people just stay idle because they're like, oh, I got to figure this thing out.
Yes.
There's definitely solutions, but this is why if we don't get back to those lower interest rates, what's going to happen in the next, 1 to 5 years?
If we don't go back to those lower interest rates, at some point, house prices have to come down. Okay, because you'll essentially like run out of buyers. But there's a couple supply side things here. We've talked about before, building permits are down, and we're at like base level transactions just a little under 4 million. That's going to keep moving along. What was interesting when I looked at this tweet, the first reply was from Elon, and he says, interest rates are insane. And he's been very vocal about how the government is destroying the economy. And you have to think about why he's really vocal. His main business, Tesla, survives on interest rates because they sell cars. So if interest rates are really high, it eats into their margin and they sell less cars. So of course he's going to be critical of it. I just thought it was funny that he was the first reply to this specific tweet, like interest rates are insane.
That's how I found it. I follow him and it shows what he replies to.
Got it. That makes total sense. I think people intuitively understand these numbers. So I was joking when I said the average consumer doesn't get this, but I don't think they understand how big it is, how this is over $500,000 more in interest, how it's almost 600 grand in interest that they would be paying, which means that all of these loans are destined to refi. People think that this is just interest rates. You have to always remember that the winter has a natural slowdown in the real estate cycle. There's a spring cycle that starts about March, and then prices peak somewhere around July or June, within a month or two. And then the rest of the year, they always decline slightly. So this winter is just going to over-exasperate that with rates around 8%.
That's so crazy, because I know that I'm excited about getting $500 off my TV that I'm going to buy today, right? So imagine $500,000. It scares people.
Yes.
It literally just makes you think that's multiple Teslas.
Yes.
Like literally 4 or 5 of them.
Yes.
And that's a whole house. So this is why, as articles and tweets like this get out to the world, I actually believe the fear is going to be greater, which is an opportunity for investors and buyers that are savvy about it. But to get savvy, you've got to do your research. You've got to know your numbers. You got to get in the game and be doing it. It's actually weirdly making me excited about real estate, because the more FUD, right? Yeah. The more fearful people are, the more idle they are. All the people willing to do the grunt work and get out there and do the extra stuff, the digital door knocking, they're the ones that are going to find the deals. And this goes back to my young days when I used to read all the real estate books. This is going to be generational wealth kind of opportunities.
100%. This is why people need to subscribe, because we are talking about this on a regular basis.
Right now.
We are talking about what's coming next. I'm literally digging through the data every week so we can give our listeners that competitive advantage. And we've been talking about where everything is going, and it's been working like clockwork. Yes, we can only see maybe 90 days, 6 months in advance. We can't predict the future, but through data and paying attention, you can really see what's happening. That's how I made $200.
Well, yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next topic. All right,
moving on.
The last one that we're going to be talking about, it's an interesting one because I can relate to it. I think a lot of other people can relate to it. But why now is the worst time ever to get a HELOC? Explain what a HELOC is first, and then why it's the worst time.
So a HELOC is known as a home equity line of credit. And I need the consumer to hear this. Now is the worst time to get one, not just because of interest rates. When an economy is contracting and the liquidity is going down, what happens is the consumer keeps spending to keep their lifestyle the same. And as they keep spending, they use their credit cards, and then they start to look at their house like an ATM. Please don't do that. Lower your spending. I know you don't want to hear it, but if you start looking at the house like an ATM, this is why it's the worst time ever. You're going to get a HELOC, and that HELOC is going to be between 9 to 10.5% interest. So really high interest, number one. Number two, you're going to take the money, and then we're going to spend it on something that's not creating an asset, which is going to make more stress, which is going to hurt me in an already stressful situation because, the economy is not chugging at 100%. And we've got a lot of FUD. Okay? You got some layoffs. You've got rumors of wars and wars happening, so the media is attacking us. This is why I think it's the worst time ever to get a HELOC. If you get one right now, the odds of you just spending it and not buying a cash producing asset is through the roof. And how do I know this is happening? Because I watch my industry and I see ads for HELOCs and reverse mortgages when you own the home like free and clear, and they give you cash and they allow you to stay in it for a period. It's in rare situations it works very good for people. I'd say in most cases it doesn't. But when I see those ads go up and more people advertising them and more people pushing them, it means the consumer is hurting, and so they're looking to where they have equity. Sell your toys. Tighten the budget. I realize some of us can't tighten the budget. Borrow money from dear Aunt Tilly, before you go for the HELOC. The HELOC is a trap unless you're turning it into an asset. Buyer beware.
Last question. Do you feel like people are getting into HELOCs and tapping into their home equity?
Yes.
Oh, they are. Got it. Yeah. Another point that I thought you didn't mention that might be good to mention in relation to HELOC. Well, right now you said it's 9 to 10%. A lot of people may be assuming or expecting the rates to go down. Wouldn't that affect the HELOC? It could potentially follow that rate.
Depends.
Yeah.
So a lot of HELOCs will have two different things attached to them, a variable rate and a fixed rate. So you can do a fixed rate advanced or a variable rate advanced. You're also playing with fire.
And that's my point, because high chance that they're not going to go down. And even if they do go down, maybe only to 5%. And if the economy does slow down and we did get into recession, that's really tight. And we've seen this play out in 2006, 7, 8.
There you go. And what if we're wrong? So we're making bets about things performing a certain way. What if inflation gets out of control? And inflation shoots up and the Fed's got to jack us up even higher. And that HELOC that was 9% becomes 15. And you went and borrowed $100,000 from it. And now all of a sudden that's going to cause you to lose your home.
HELOCs made sense when it was 2 or 3%.
Bingo.
Because
it's free money.
Free money.
Okay. And when it's not, and it's almost a credit card rate, you're playing with fire. So spend less. Create your side hustle. Go flip a home. Go wholesale a property. Do something to create extra income and to polish those skills and to get better. Because when economies change like this, there is also opportunity for you to make more money. One of my longtime friends in the last recession, I can't believe he did this. He destroyed it. 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Every year and a half, he changed jobs in the recession, and he got a raise. Every single time. While everyone else was drowning, one of my friends destroyed it and got a raise every single time. Here's all he did. He would constantly get a new certificate, a new skill, and work on the new task at his work. So he was always doing the new thing. Then he would apply every 6 months to 100 new jobs. And this was in the worst recession since the Great Depression. And he had the hot new skill and the hot new certificate in a tech market. And yes, he's a tech worker. Someone would go, we need him. And they would grab him, and he was getting a raise while all the rest of us were not getting raises and getting our asses kicked. You can do that in a market like this too. So there's always an opportunity for people to do something. And I think massive opportunity inside of real estate. We've mentioned this. But when building permits are going down, it's time to flip a home. It's time to build a home. It's time to install a manufactured home or build a dadu. Let's go. Whenever something's going down, that creates opportunity. And you know what? If you're going to take the HELOC to go do that, and that's not going to sink the ship, that's probably an acceptable risk in today's market. But don't take that HELOC to go pay bills or to go on a vacation right now or to buy a boat.
Boats are horrible. We do this every single week. If you're just into real estate, buyer, seller, investor, especially for the Seattle market. But where can people reach you, Anton?
Just Google my name, Anton Stetner. You can reach us always. If you're on YouTube, you can text us right there in the pinned comment. And also there is the link above.